Well, I bet you didn't expect to see me here with this Traeger Ironwood XL. Well, one of the commitments to the channel is that I want to make sure that you can make educated decisions if you're in the market for a pellet grill or smoker. And this Ironwood XL is now added to the smoke show repertoire. Now today we're going to be talking all about the Traeger Ironwood XL. We're going to go through the features, the shortcomings, and all of the positive features that I have found so far with this. Now look, I haven't cooked on it yet, but I have enough experience with pellet grills that I can look at features and I can tell which ones are useful and which ones are not. Now let's dive right in to this Traeger Ironwood XL. Now first and foremost, I want to take the time to reiterate a previous point that I just made, and that is that I am here to provide honest evaluations on cooks and on equipment here in the backyard barbecue space. And for many years, you've never seen a Traeger on my channel. Well, that's changed now. Not because I'm paid by anyone, but because I owe it to my audience to give you a wide variety of pellet grill and smoker options and to come in to talk about the positives, the negatives, and if it's worth your hard-earned money. So today and in the future, we're gonna be doing that with Traeger, and it's gonna be added to everything that you already see here at Anderson Smoke Show. Now, the Ironwood XL, I'll tell you, I've only had it for about a week, and it took me by myself an hour and a half to get assembled. Now, I didn't do an assembly video. I didn't film any of that. Honestly, I wish I would have captured some of that experience because there's one thing that stood out to me immediately. Now, that is the packaging. I have assembled so many pellet grills and smokers over the years, and even if we look outside of the grilling market, I've assembled all sorts of things in my life. The one thing that I noticed immediately, and something that immediately I could appreciate, was the packaging. I would go out on a limb and say that 98 to 99% of the materials that were used when packaging this were all recyclable, and in fact, mostly cardboard. Now, when it comes to the assembly, once again, I didn't grab any footage of that because I did this by myself. It took me about an hour and a half. Now, I thoroughly went through everything. I looked and read the instructions, and I was evaluating them basically as I went to see what I thought of their assembly process. And overall, it wasn't bad. It was, you know, run of the mill when it comes to assembly and the number of steps required. But overall, it was easy, and I did it by myself in an hour and a half. Now, this is a big smoker. It weighs like 200 pounds. I would suggest not doing it by yourself, or at least having some help for a few of the steps, because when you start out and you're putting the legs on, you're doing it with the smoker on its back, and you have to pick up this entire thing, and the last thing that you want to do is drop or damage your smoker. Now let's talk about what makes this pellet grill special. Now, when talking with Traeger, this is their flagship. This is the smoker of smokers if you're looking for it. And I know they have the Timberline XL, but that one has features that kind of make it more versatile. But if you're looking for the smoker, this is the one that they say is top notch. When I opened it up, the first thing I saw with the pellets is I felt like the hopper was small. I felt like it wouldn't hold much, but surprisingly, it is a 22-pound hopper and it'll fit an entire bag of pellets no problem. The other thing that I noticed about the hopper, which is cool, is they have an LED light inside of here. So when you open the lid, you're gonna find that it's illuminated inside. It is right here on the bottom side of this stainless steel overhang. Another thing that I really like about this smoker is the space that you have. Now, granted, it is massive. Now, one of the things that stood out to me right away is the amount of surface area that I have to work with. When you are out cooking and you've got trays and cutting boards and tools and utensils, you can never have enough space. This thing here is massive. It's literally 70 inches long, but the side shelf that is here is one of the biggest side shelves that I have seen on any pellet grill in the market, and is more than usable. Now, they do have their pop and lock accessories, which you see I have this sucker loaded up with accessories. I've got their storage bin, I've got their roll holder, I've got that foldable front shelf, I have the accessory hooks, pretty much every accessory that they make for the pop and lock system. It just increases the capability, the size, and the storage. I mean, it's literally 70 inches wide, and with the shelf folded out, you're pushing around 36 inches deep from front to back. This takes up a lot of real estate, but it's all very usable space. Now I want to talk about the cooking surface here. If you follow this channel enough over the years, you'll know that I really don't like these half shelves that come with pellet grills. Many times I find them unusable because they're only, 6-8 inches deep, and if you need to get some protein up off the heat source or away from the heat source, they're typically not big enough to hold anything. Now, if you have some ears of sweet corn or something like that, they'll fit up there fine. But with this Traeger Ironwood XL, I noticed that this one was significantly bigger. It's still not full length, but it's more than half. And so let's talk a little bit about the dimensions here. Overall, this has 924 square inches of cooking surface, which puts it up there in competition with the majority of your bigger store-bought, big box store smokers. Your Masterbuilt Gravity Series 1000s, 1,000 square inches, give or take. This one's 924. But the dimensions do matter because they are including this top shelf in there. So what I want to know is, how big is the actual cooking surface here on the grill? So the main is 34 inches wide. So in comparison to Camp Chef, for example, with the Woodwind Pro, the larger size is a 36 inch. That is the cooking chamber, which I don't remember the exact dimensions, but this one's gonna be right in line with that, with 34 inches of the main cooking surface. Now, if we talk about depth here, the depth is 18 inches deep. So that's gonna be 612 square inches of main cooking surface, which is pretty large, but still at the same time, it's very similar to what you're gonna find with the competitors. Now, where you're gonna gain some extra space when you compare with some of the other grills on the market is this top shelf. Now, if we're gonna compare to the Camp Chef Woodwind Pro, which I will be doing a direct comparison between the two in the very near future, I do think it's one of the closest competitors to this Ironwood XL just due to size and the cost involved. I do think it's important to note that the Camp Chef Woodwind Pro uses a multi-shelf upper shelf, which gives you almost the same dimensions on an upper shelf as you get on the main cooking surface. But that's not a downfall to this smoker, because I will say that this is a very usable top shelf, and that means that you're getting a little bit bigger bottom cooking area than most of the grills. Now, these are steel, but they are porcelain coated. The top is 1 shelf, the bottom is 3. The way they're set up, they're made for easy cleanup. They're easy to get in and out, which is great. I love that. Now, their grease management system on this is very different than anything that I've ever seen. And it solves kind of 3 problems, I guess, at once. First off, the way they have their drip tray designed, it almost covers the entire bottom of the grilling area or the main chamber. The way it works is everything is vented around that. So it's almost like an inverse dome effect, and then all the smoke comes from the outsides. What that's gonna do is help eliminate hot spots. It's also gonna help distribute heat evenly. Now, I wanted to get in here and take you inside of what you can expect with this Ironwood XL. So here is your top shelf, steel, porcelain coated, 1 piece, bigger than what you see in most of your competition when it comes to a partial upper shelf. Now, same style racks, 3 pieces. Some of these racks can get heavy, especially when they're larger and they're steel. So having them in 3 pieces makes it easier to clean, because I could take these right in the house and clean them in the sink rather than having 1 giant shelf. Super nice. Now you're gonna see the drip tray, and what I was saying is kind of that reverse dome. So everything funnels down under this. Drips right down into their easy clean out keg, grease and ash in that. Now, I also talked about how this thing vents. And you can see the vents all the way around. So heat is gonna get distributed a little bit more evenly because of the way this is vented. Then you have an additional level of stainless steel. Now, what you'll notice here also results in the evenness that this is supposed to cook. We still don't even see the fire pot yet, and we've already taken out the grease tray. We still have another layer. You also see all of these cutouts here. This is gonna help, once again, evening the distribution of that heat and smoke. So I'm gonna pull this out to show you what it looks like inside. Once again, you have these 2 areas that funnel You've got the area that goes down to that clean out keg. You've got that area here around the fire basket or the fire pot. You can see here, this is your auger. It is an open style auger, kind of like in the cartoons, how you'd see a pigtail. That is an open center style auger, which is good because it helps avoid jams and binding, just because there's not a lot for things to hang up on. Now, I will say, looking at this, you know, there is some ash scattered in here. You should be able to see that as well. But the way it is right now, it looks as if there's ash down in the clean out. So it is working. We'll have to see. This thing only ran through the burn-in process, but I'll see over time how well this thing works in terms of collecting ash as well as grease. Now, to be completely fair, I was a little worried about the ash and grease mixing because I just assumed it would turn into like concrete. It's gonna soak up that grease and absorb it, and you're gonna have these giant clumps of ash and grease mixed together. But as I took this apart and was really thinking about how this works and how those two kind of combine, shouldn't be an issue, because the only place that you should see grease and ash together are down inside that clean out keg. Now, I'll explain what I mean. Down inside the smoker, you can see some ash. You don't see any grease. That's because of this. The majority of the ash is gonna stay below this. This isn't greasy. This should never become greasy because everything funnels straight down into that clean out keg. So as I start to put this back together, you'll see the multiple levels of ash and grease separation, as well as the multiple layers that help evenly distribute the heat and the smoke. The more I look at this, the more ingenious I think that this entire cooking chamber has become. Because of that, I haven't done a biscuit test on a smoker in a while. This one's definitely gonna get one because I'm genuinely curious how well this truly evens that out. Because of the way it's perforated on the outside edges, I have a feeling that those biscuits right there might be a little hotter, might cook a little faster. We're gonna test that out. We're gonna put that to the test because I'm genuinely curious. Most pellet grills and smokers have hot spots. What I'm seeing here today, as I'm putting this back together, as I'm evaluating this in front of the camera today, it looks like they've done a really good job of not only mitigating the ash and the grease and putting it into one easy clean out, the heat and smoke distribution on this also looks great. Now, as I look through this smoker, I'm thinking of a lot of things in my head. God forbid anyone who knew what I was actually thinking at all times. But I did not notice a sensor in the main cooking chamber. It's actually something I noticed earlier, and I do think it's worth a mention. Most pellet grills that I've ever worked with have a sensor, usually somewhere right in here, and it's measuring the temperature on the inside of the cooking chamber. Now, there's a lot of criticisms that follow the probe location, and that is because where are we measuring the temperature? That's the information that the controller is gonna get, is the temperature, and it's gonna make adjustments accordingly because it's a PID controller. Know a few things about those. If you've listened to any of my videos, you'll understand why. But I didn't see a sensor anywhere in the cooking chamber. Then I noticed this right here in the back, off of the exhaust, which is part of that downdraft system. That is the temperature sensor. So what exactly is it measuring? It's measuring the exhaust. Well, where is the most even place in the grill to measure the temperature? It would be the exhaust. Rather than placing that at a random place in the smoker, it's measuring the temperature on the exhaust. We'll see how well it holds up with temperature. I'll do some checks with some of my probes. We'll do that when we do the biscuit test. But that is another thing that makes me think that they have done a great job of making a pellet grill that cooks and operates very efficiently and very evenly. While we're in this main cooking area, I got two things I want to talk about. The first part is one of the, maybe not a downfall, but something that I noticed when I was putting it together, and I'm not sure if this could be improved upon. Pretty sure it could, but these little sidewalls that hold up the upper shelf, they aren't part of the lid, and they're basically just like riveted to the body of this cooking surface or the chamber. And when I was putting this top shelf in, I did notice that especially up front, they are a little flimsy. On a $2,000 pellet grill, I did notice that, and I thought to myself, that could probably be improved upon. Not sure if it's a problem though. The thing that I was very impressed with inside of the chamber here is actually over here. Now, some of the premium pellet grills on the market have lights in the chamber, and every one that I've ever seen is inside of the lid. What happens when they're in the lid? Smoke builds up and covers and coats the inside of that lid. You know, as you season your grill, you'll start to see that browning and blackening of all of the inside of the chamber. That also includes the lights. This Traeger Ironwood XL has 2 LEDs right here. And when I put this together, it had gotten dark like after I finished up and I was running through the seasoning process for the first time. I will tell you that these lights are very effective. You can't really see them too well now. I mean, it's 2 o'clock on a Sunday and it's bright and sunny as you can see. But when it comes to running this in the evening or at night, those lights are very effective. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the controller. Now, if we're gonna talk about the controller, I think it's fair to mention that the amount of effort that they have put into this thing is far beyond any pellet grill I've ever seen. Not only is this a touch screen, but they have engineered a lot into what they give you. So the first time you power this thing up, they do a walkthrough on all of the features. Mind you, this is touchscreen, it's full color, there's a lot of features. Sure, are those bells and whistles that maybe you're not gonna use, or people are gonna say that's an easy bake oven because it's a pellet grill? Sure, they'll say that anyways because they wanna manage a fire by themselves all night for 16, 20 hours at a time. Sure, keep doing what you're doing. But with this controller, I was super impressed because the first time I plugged it in, it actually gave me a walkthrough of the controller and it said, hey, you need to season your smoker. And it told me what to do. It set the temperatures the way they needed to be set, and it ran for the amount of time that it needed to run for the seasoning or burn off of this Traeger Ironwood XL. That's the first pellet grill that I've ever seen that does the burn-in for you. You don't have to look in the manual. You don't have to set timers. You don't have to mess with the temperatures yourself. It literally asks, do you want to do the burn-in now? Say, yeah, sure. You hit the button and it does the burn-in. Now, if we want to talk about the controller itself, it is touchscreen, it is full color. It has this nifty dial that actually clicks as you turn it. You can set this thing anywhere from 165 degrees to 500 degrees with just a quick flip of the wrist and a click of the knob. Now, I'm not going to do that quite yet. We will show you how this thing runs, but I want to finish running through some of these settings first. It does have 2 probe ports, but it also has the ability to connect to wireless meter probes. It's got a little transmitter receiver here for that. It has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity. In 2024, every pellet grill and smoker on the market that has electronics has that. But I will say that I've had issues with some of my smokers back here in the back of my driveway with getting Wi-Fi connectivity to the point where I don't use that very often because of how unreliable it can be. This one, when I was doing the burn-in process, I was doing it right here as you basically see it sitting, and I had 0 issue keeping connectivity to the smoker. I was in the house monitoring things through the app just to see how it was going, and it worked flawlessly. Now, as you can see, as I go through this menu, it's gonna go through the Wi-Fi technology. That's how they coined their Wi-Fi and wireless connectivity is the Wi-Fi. It has the accessories, it has the maintenance and care, it has about the grill, tips and tricks, and settings. This is a very intuitive menu. Just to run through a few of the things, it's like, what are we gonna change? Well, you've got brightness, you've got sound, you've got language, you've got units Fahrenheit or Celsius. If we go back, if we go to accessories, you're gonna see things like pair cooktop, pair Bluetooth probe, wired probe, pizza oven, and the tips and tricks gonna give you some general, some seasoning, some ignition, some smoke science, some cooking tips, some cleaning tips, and some information about the induction top that you can get for this. Now, that's a pretty complicated setup when it comes to the controller on this, but they have put so much effort into this, I don't even think you need your phone. The way this is set up, you've got everything right there in front of you. It goes deep down inside of what this grill and smoker is all about, which is way beyond just setting a temperature like you do on some of those other pellet grills. I'm really excited to mess with this over time and put some honest hours into cooking on this to see what I can accomplish with some of the information that they provide here with the smoker. I made a quick mention of the pop and lock system. So this smoker has a rail that runs around 3 sides of the smoker. It's on your left, it's on your right, and it's across the entire front. Now, the purpose of that, they have these pop and lock snap accessories. And just for example, I'll just show you the one here. They attach to the rail by just snapping into place. Now, these are just the accessory hooks themselves, but they're super cool in the way that they work because you can configure the smoker anywhere you want. You've got the rails available on all 3 sides, and based off of your needs or your size constraints, you can set this up however you need. One thing that I've been a big critic of with grills in the past few years is the wheels. I will say that these are better than a lot of what I've seen, but there's still room for some improvement. The only reason why I say that is because where I cook and what I do around here, the small caster wheels probably aren't gonna be great for dragging it across the yard, but I will say that those lawnmower sized rubber wheels are nice. They will definitely help. Now, material-wise, this is still a big box store smoker. Sure, you'll find it at some patio and hearth stores, but you can go to your big box stores, order these online, and get them delivered to your house or go pick them up yourself. So it kind of still feels like one of those big box store pellet grills. I don't want to say that that's an issue because it's not at this point, but it's getting to that price range in my mind at that $2,000 range for this Ironwood XL to where the quality of materials has to improve. It does still kind of feel a little bit like some of those lower end smokers. Now, I will say the lid is very sturdy, the hinges are great, the double wall construction, the gasket that they have on here, all of that is good. And another thing that I did notice about it is the chimney. You'll notice there is no stack. And most of your premium pellet grills anymore are getting away from the chimney, and they're doing the downdraft systems, and this one is no different. It is a downdraft. Everything vents out the back. It vents more evenly than what you've seen with those stacks. We're gonna evaluate that downdraft system. I wanna talk a little bit about that because I think you should see that. You should see this thing operating. So let's do that. So let's get in here and let's actually get this thing going. So you can see it is ready to cook. So I'm going to turn the dial. Because we smoke a lot of things at like 225 to 250 degrees, we're just gonna set the sucker to 225. I got the temperature here. It says push dial to confirm. I pushed the dial. Oh, press and hold here on the touch screen. There we go. And it's igniting. It's giving you a pro tip as you go. Make sure your grates, drip tray, and grease and ash keg are clean before cooking. Very important tip. Most grease fires are because you ignored the fact that your grill was super dirty. Clean your grill, people. Even Traeger says so. Now this thing is up to temperature, and look at that smoke behind me. This is churning out smoke like crazy. I want you to see what it looks like inside. That smoke just swirling around in there. The way that that drip tray and everything is designed, you can see how well and how evenly that smoke distribution is. And we're getting this kind of nice swirling, rolling effect, and that's with the lid open. Imagine what that thing would look like inside when it's closed. Now, some of you are probably gonna say, look, you're talking all this stuff, you're criticizing and critiquing something you haven't even cooked on yet. I will tell you that my experience so far has been great. And I'm not just saying that. I have been a big critic of assembly instructions. I have been a big critic of packaging. Both of those with this smoker were great. Sample size 1 of 1. I've only worked with the Ironwood XL model at this point, but I'm assuming that the same approach has been taken with all of their grills. I really appreciated that. The build quality, the sturdiness of this, like it doesn't wobble, it doesn't wiggle, the hinges are good, the handle is sturdy, the lid is heavy, especially for a grill with these types of materials. The ability to accessorize with their pop and lock system, All of that is great. The controller itself is far beyond any other controller capability that I have seen. And I will tell you that that doesn't always mean everything, but you can tell that they have put a ton of effort into the controls behind this. The lights are just an added benefit, but something that is so smart and intuitive, the way that they have them shining in from the side of the hopper into the smoker to where they're not gonna get dirty, they're not gonna get messy, they're not gonna get smoked over. Super ingenious. But once again, you're gonna say you haven't even cooked on it yet. Well, you know me by now. We're gonna be doing a ton of cooks on these. Thanksgiving is coming up. That means it's gonna be turkey galore, and you know we're gonna be doing turkeys on this Ironwood XL. We're also throwing a huge party at our house in a few weeks where I'm gonna have literally every smoker and grill that I have out here in the driveway, smoking something, holding something, cooking something, because I want my friends and family to see what I'm working with, and then I know that they're gonna be impressed with this Ironwood XL. But what else can you expect with this grill? I mentioned earlier a comparison to the Camp Chef Woodwind Pro, but it's not gonna stop there. I have the Lone Star Grills pellet grill. I have a Masterbuilt Gravity series. I have a bunch of smokers that are direct competitors with this that vary throughout the price ranges. And we're gonna put this thing to the test, not only to see how well it cooks, but how well it compares to others. Now, if you have any questions, if you have any critiques, if you have any complaints, there's the comment section down below the video. Get down in there and let's talk. I'm in there all the time answering questions. Don't hesitate to go down in there and reach out. I will be in there, I will be watching. It is such a beautiful day, and I have a perfectly clean pellet grill that needs to be put to the test. I think it's time to make some lunch. I hope that you enjoyed the video enough to subscribe and like the video. And if you did and you want to check out more, then I would start with this video right here.